Welcome to the Lesbian Romantic podcast. This is Connection Revealed, Part 29. September 23rd, 2063. Monique Biden Hospital, San Francisco, Fire Blue Territory, North American Province, 4:15 a.m. local time. Michelle closed her eyes and let out a sigh of relief. It was as if the tension and pain of the last few hours had dissipated in an instant. Jade's lips felt so wonderful. She raised her arm, intending to run her hand through Jade's hair, but... Ouch! Michelle hissed, as the IV painfully tugged at her skin. Careful, Jade said. Are you okay? Michelle frowned, inspecting her arm. I think so. She met Jade's beautiful brown Bambi eyes and couldn't help but smile. Hi, Jade said, blushing. What happened to you? Something bit me, Michelle grinned goofily. Jade's eyebrows shot up. Like a bug? Nodding, Michelle giggled. Yes, a mosquito, they think. She bit her lower lip to stop herself from laughing. She suddenly found the situation she was in very funny. What was in that IV exactly, she wondered. That is, Jade replied, shaking her head. She met Michelle's eyes again and burst out laughing. That is crazy. It is. Michelle said, now laughing too. Why are we laughing? This is serious, Jade said, gasping for air. You could have died. I don't know. Michelle replied, just as breathless as Jade. What if they hear us? Jade asked, turning toward the locked door. Michelle shrugged. They already think we're lunatics anyway. True, Jade said, turning back to face Michelle, taking in a deep breath. Their gazes met again. The fluorescent light behind Jade made Michelle squint her eyes shut. Is the light hurting you? Jade said, frowning and looking up at the ceiling. What an awful light this is. Yeah, anyone would look bad under this light, Michelle joked. Not you. You look beautiful, Jade said, visibly blushing once more. You must have lost your mind, Michelle stated, not entirely joking. I think we both have, Jade said before straightening up. She walked to the door and switched off the light, and Michelle groaned in relief. Oh, that is so much better. Jade returned to the bed beside Michelle and took her hand in hers. How are you feeling? It took Michelle's eyes a few seconds to adjust before she could see Jade again. The curtains of the room were still open, and the city lights cast a soft glow on Jade's skin. I'm okay, Michelle affirmed with a slow nod. Yes, I am okay now. Michelle ran her thumb over Jade's fingers as butterflies stirred in her stomach. The silence between them felt heavy, but not in a bad way. It was as if their thoughts and feelings, previously suppressed and hidden, now buzzed in the air. I liked kissing you, Jade croaked. Michelle swallowed hard. I liked you kissing me too. I wasn't pretending, Jade continued. Pretending? Michelle asked, confused. A slight sense of panic filled her chest. We were supposed to pretend? Jade said shyly. That we are a couple? Oh, right, Michelle nodded. That's not why I kissed you, Jade clarified, squeezing Michelle's hand. Michelle's throat tightened and she rubbed it, frowning. What's wrong? Jade asked immediately, her voice thick with worry. I'm fine, Michelle croaked hoarsely. Jade hesitated for a moment, then ran the tips of her fingers across Michelle's forehead. Michelle sighed, relaxing slightly. You must be so tired, Jade whispered, stroking Michelle's hair. Michelle enjoyed Jade's touch too much to respond. Aren't you? She murmured after several moments. Her eyes felt heavy, even when closed. I guess, Jade replied absently. Michelle drifted off in a cloud of contentment, barely registering the sound of metal being pushed and pulled into place. September 23rd, 2063. Presidential Residence, San Francisco. Fire Blue Territory, North American Province, 4:15 a.m. local time. Elle pushed herself up in bed, rubbing her eyes. Why did you bring them here? Louise asked, running a hand through her dark hair. It was Elle stammered, not having gathered her thoughts enough to come up with a good explanation. Was that the high-value scientist? Louise asked, sounding increasingly impatient. Elle just nodded. Yes, she wanted to talk to me. Couldn't that have waited until morning? Louise said incredulously. Just give me a moment to wake up, Elle pleaded, blinking a few times. She was surprised she'd fallen asleep. After being outmaneuvered by Michelle Becker, she'd expected to stay wide awake and had only gone back to bed to be with Louise. I'm sorry, Louise said after a moment, stroking Elle's back. I'm just surprised. I understand, Elle said quickly. Her throat was tight with tension. Maybe now was the time to come clean? What if she just told Louise everything? Wouldn't that be so much better? All she had to do was say the words one by one. She had to try. I guess I'm feeling a bit insecure, Louise said sadly. What? Elle asked, her head snapping up. Why? Louise shrugged. I don't know. There's a woman in your office in the middle of the night. It reminds me of how we got started, you know? Elle's lips parted in shock. She didn't know if she should be insulted or touched by what Louise had said. Louise grabbed her hand and brought it to her lips, kissing Elle's fingers. I know it's silly, she said. I guess I'm overly sensitive after feeling so disconnected from you lately. Yeah, Elle said quietly, in awe of Louise's courage. It dawned on her that Louise was a much braver woman than she was. Baby, Elle said, scooting closer to Louise, you never have to worry like that ever again. I only want you. Louise smiled sadly. Her face was just visible enough for Elle to see. I mean it, Elle insisted. Nothing is more important to me than you. I mean, no one. I feel the same, Louise replied after a long silence, brushing some of Elle's curls away from her eyes. I'm so sorry if I made you feel this way, Elle said quietly. You didn't, Louise started to say, but then paused. I guess you did in a way, but I know it wasn't intentional. I know your job requires unusual meetings. Elle closed her eyes, wincing. She felt awful that she was making Louise go through all of this. She had to stop this. Her lips parted slowly. September 23rd, 2063. Monique Biden Hospital, San Francisco. Fire Blue Territory, North American Province. 6:15 a.m. local time. Jade woke up slowly, letting out a contented sigh as she felt soft fingers stroking the sensitive skin of her lower arm. She smiled and stretched her legs, bumping into something hard and cold with her foot. Darn it, she grumbled and reluctantly opened her eyes. Good morning, a soft voice said. Head spinning, Jade blinked a few times. The sun shone straight into her eyes and she struggled to understand where she was. Lifting her hand to block the light, She finally remembered. In a hospital bed, with Michelle. "Oh my gosh," she said, gasping. "I'm sorry. I must have fallen asleep. Fuck." "Don't be," Michelle replied, still stroking up and down Jade's arm. Michelle's touch set off all sorts of wonderful responses in Jade's body. She cleared her throat and put her head back down on the pillow, her nose inches from Michelle's. Jade felt a shiver run down her spine as she gazed into Michelle's blue eyes. Michelle's hand moved from her arm to her cheek, her thumb brushing over Jade's lips. Jade's heart beat faster as Michelle leaned in, her breath hot on Jade's face. She could feel Michelle's lips hovering just above hers. The kiss was soft and gentle, yet it sent shockwaves through Jade's body. She wrapped her arms around Michelle, pulling her closer and deepening the kiss, despite the IV and node still hooked up to Michelle. As their tongues danced together for the first time, Jade felt her body ignite with desire. She moved her hands down Michelle's back, feeling the curves of her body under the bed sheets. But then Michelle suddenly cursed. "Fuck! Ow!" Jade pulled back. She had accidentally tugged on the IV, causing Michelle sharp pain. "I'm so sorry," Jade said quickly, her cheeks turning bright red with embarrassment. Michelle just smiled and shook her head. "No, it was me." She brushed her lips against Jade's forehead and then kissed her softly on the cheek. "We'll just have to be more careful," she whispered into Jade's ear. Then she leaned in and kissed Jade again. This time, their kiss was slow and intense. Jade kissed Michelle with abandon, forgetting about where they were and why they were there. They explored each other slowly and carefully, breathing heavily. Jade's hands moved down to Michelle's stomach, caressing it with her fingertips beneath the hospital bed sheets. She could feel Michelle's muscles tense and relax beneath her touch. The warmth of Michelle's skin felt so good that Jade couldn't help but move further down. Her fingers traced the lines along Michelle's stomach until she reached her hips, moving her hand to feel the muscles of Michelle's behind. The sensation was both tender and electric. Michelle moaned softly into Jade's mouth, her body trembling beneath her touch. Carefully, to avoid tugging at the IV again, Jade shifted her leg against Michelle's. She felt the heat radiating from between Michelle's thighs as she pressed her body closer. Jade closed her eyes and melted into Michelle, letting out a soft sigh of pleasure as they moved together slowly. She sighed as Michelle's hands slipped underneath her shirt. She had never been so aroused before, and the intensity of the moment was overwhelming. Being in a hospital bed, however impractical, only seemed to make things more intense. Every touch and caress felt like an electric shock, sending jolts of pleasure coursing through her veins until she could barely keep herself from crying out with delight. Jade instinctively knew that she would never experience this again. Neither of them heard the footsteps in the hallway or the unlocking of the door. This was part 29 of Connection Revealed. My dear fellow romantics, last week I shared that I need to make some changes if I want the lesbian romantic to survive. From now on, my goal will shift from sharing my stories with as many people as possible to creating something very special and very personal for a few people. 100 people, to be exact. And I hope you can be one of those 100 people. If not, there will still be stories and new episodes on this public feed, but I'm not sure yet what that will look like. I'm still working out the details, to be honest. I understand if this is disappointing and frustrating. I really do. I hope you'll trust me when I say that this is what I need to do to keep the lesbian romantic going in some form. The new concept is called the Bells and Whistles Theater, and I'm already having so much fun with it. In the Bells and Whistles Theater, I want to bring a big smile on your face as often as I can. There are the predictable perks of joining the theater, exclusive access to all of my TLR work, behind-the-scenes conversations, and of course, extra scenes with your favorite characters. I actually just recorded a Halloween scene for the theater members. But I aim to do so much more in this theater. It is a special place where I create freely and joyfully with the goal of delighting you. The theater is a place of escape and a place of wonder. You'll have to discover what's behind the curtains for yourself. I can't wait to welcome you personally. You can join me at patreon.com/lesbianromantic. There are only 100 seats available in the theater, and they're rolling out 1 or 2 at a time, so I can welcome everyone personally. Again, you can find those seats at patreon.com/lesbianromantic. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you to everyone who has supported me over the years. You have helped me make it this far, and my stories have reached many, many people because of your help. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope to see you in the theater. Thank you again, and talk to you soon. Bye. Welcome to the Bells and Whistles Theater. Step inside and follow me into an enchanted realm of sound. It would be my privilege to welcome you to the Bells and Whistles Theater today. Go to the Patreon membership page and see if there's a seat available.